All right, Monday night in the city, Soul Lounge Primetime.
What's up, Night Watchman? How you doing, buddy?
I'm good, DJ LeRoy. How are you?
Not bad, not bad. So, as you know, we just finished the convention,
Yep.
and it looks like some good stuff's going to happen. Well, some stuff that we pray will happen. Okay,
well, we got momentum back, which is a good thing.
that is absolutely a good thing.
Historic occasion. Props to Kamala Harris. Props to Joe Biden for making the right decision, and props to the country for hopefully getting on the right track. Because, as we know, Black people must vote. That's called foreshadowing.
That's absolutely right. Absolutely right.
We got some great guests for the show today, huh?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. Coming all the way from North Shakalaka, and here to talk about her concept for Steam Yard, and that, of course, is Miss Ari Sanders. Ari,
welcome.
Hello, DJ LeRoy, Bob. Thanks for having me so much today. I really appreciate the opportunity. Hello, New Yorkers. How's everybody doing?
We're doing great.
Good. Absolutely. So, you know what? Before I actually dive into this little thing, I'm going to bring some other guests out here, okay?
Okay.
We have, of course, the president and founder of course, one of my favorite brands, EXPERIENCEHARLEM.com, Miss Angie Hancock.
Angie Hancock, welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. And also, Night Watchman, if you didn't know, she's also a woman who not only, she hustles dudes on the golf course, just so you know.
I'm a little concerned about her with that comment.
First of all,
I don't hustle. If you
doesn't hustle,
me, then that's
on you.
Okay.
But the truth is, her reputation already precedes her, so it's hard to find somebody to hustle.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, of course, last but certainly not least, and we just talked about the convention, why it's so vitally important that we not only vote this November, but all the time there's an election. Mr. Kenneth Smaltz of Black Folk Must Vote. What's up, Kenneth?
What's happening? What's happening, everybody?
Oh, good.
Thanks
How
for
you
having
doing,
me
buddy?
on.
Absolutely. So let's start off with Ari Sanders. So Ari, how did you? Because remember, the beer game is not necessarily one that's diverse. When I talk about also racially, but also sexually, in terms of there aren't many women in that particular space. How did you end up in the beer space?
Well, when I find something I like, I go get it. I enjoy craft beer. I was enjoying seeing what craft beer was doing for my economy in North Carolina, and I decided I want to be a part of that industry. I went to several bars, drank several beers, talked with people, read books, got some information, and kept looking for opportunities, put interest out with upcoming breweries, and got hired on a startup brewery out in Hillsborough, North Carolina. I worked my way up from the first bartender there to general manager. And I've now moved on to director of operations at Full Steam Brewery out in downtown Durham. And it's been a wild ride. And, I've enjoyed it. I'm enjoying seeing more women and seeing more brown faces. And I've really enjoyed seeing the industry kind of wake up a little bit and see the participation in the Black is Beautiful movement and, brewing and supporting social justice. So, I've been in the industry for a while. I'm seeing more people like me, and hopefully I'm a part of the change.
So Ari, how long have you been in the business now?
I've been in craft beer particularly for a little over 7 years, and I've been in service and hospitality for 19.
Wow. Long time. Okay, long one.
I did the college thing. I enjoyed it. But when I left, I realized that my heart and soul wasn't going to be in a cubicle.
Absolutely. So one of the things that you also have been putting together is a concept to really host tastings. Tell us a little bit about that.
Absolutely. As you were speaking about the lack of diversity in the industry, I thought about it not just from the, in employment in the actual making of the beer side, but also in the welcoming people to the table side. And, we talk about diversity. Diversity is like, you're welcome here, but inclusion is like, let me bring you in, right? And so one thing that I thought I could do to increase inclusion in the industry was do one of the things I do best, have some beer with my friends, right? And, through the COVID times, we're not able to go out to the bars anymore the same way, especially in North Carolina. We're still, our bars are still closed. Our breweries are open though. But what's always open? Your home. So I'm doing backyard bottle shares. I'm seeking to increase diversity and inclusion by having small, intimate tastings hosted online at the moment, where people get a sample of beer in the mail. We talk about the beer, learn about it, we laugh, joke. Sometimes there's other things we're talking about. We have a good time in a friendly setting. People can ask questions, learn, and diversify their palates. When you walk into a tap room with 30 beers, you know what all those words mean, and that experience is a lot less daunting and a little bit more approachable.
No doubt, no doubt. So one of the things I definitely have to say is that with the beer and that whole experience, especially doing stuff now virtually, have you had to pivot? And how has that really, let's say, affected the overall experience? What would you say?
I've had to pivot quite a bit in both my personal life and with work. We're at half capacity in our own venue, and then with Backyard Bottle Share, it used to be once a week, my friends and I would get together and we'd all bring 2 beers and we'd sit in someone's yard or someone's living room and discuss the beers and talk and share what we knew. And so I was like, well, in COVID, people are looking for other ways to get out. I have my little pod of 6 and we see each other, but I'm like, how can I have the same experience but do it virtually? So what I'm doing right now, my mother, Kurt has been to a couple of my talks. We're hosting them online. I have a very small, not the best curated Instagram right now, but you follow Backyard Bottle Share, you see what beers are coming up. Reach out to me. I get it to your door. I get you the link, and then we'll sit in the backyard and have a drink.
Excellent. So I must give apologies right now, NightWatchman, okay? Because you know why? Because I'm a mature guy. That's why I do this, okay? So I want to give my apologies first to Angie Hancock and to Kenneth Smaltz, because you guys didn't know that you guys were joining the show until very late, and thus Ari couldn't work her magic in getting some stuff over to you guys. But I am holding in my hand one of her craft beers. And if you can read the label, how's that? The label, is that better?
Oh, hold on, let me.
It's a little difficult to read.
Oh God!
Yeah, your lighting's kind of bright.
Yeah,
but
the light is very bright. Anyway, it's Juneteenth. That's much better light.
Yes,
turn around. Turn around.
Production values are a little better here at the the homestead. There we go.
Cool.
Absolutely. Okay. Very nice. So please, Ari, the genesis of Juneteenth.
Well, living in the South, Juneteenth was something that I was made aware of from a small child. Both of my great grandparents, who I had the pleasure of growing up alongside, grew up alongside both of my great grandmothers, and they were both children of slaves. I could take you to where my great grandmother's parents were buried on the land they were freed on, where they worked alongside that land until poor banking and Jim Crow kind of took that land away from the family. And so for me, Juneteenth was always important, and it was always about possibility and change and growth. And so when we were thinking about, when I came aboard in full steam last year, we were thinking about what's something new and Southern that we can do. And I was like, well, Juneteenth. And everyone kind of looked at me, I'm in a room surrounded by white men. And I said, it's a celebration of the last of the slaves being told they were free. And what it kind of meant to me. And we said, we should definitely do something about that. I reached out to some oral historians in the area, reached out to some of the college professors, the Hayti Heritage Center, with the plan to throw a big party for Juneteenth. Between COVID happening and between the world finally waking up and seeing the experience of people who are supposed to be free in this country, it didn't seem like a good time to throw a party. We thought it was a better thing to name some beer, send some, do some education about Juneteenth and about the African-American experience in our town, and, donate some money. We are going to donate the proceeds to Southern Poverty Law Center and Southern Heritage Center. We've partnered alongside with another gentleman who put on some awesome Juneteenth programming, a big feature of African-American makers and musicians. And it felt really good, but I think the biggest thing was it gave us an opportunity to highlight some other people of color in the area and their Juneteenth stories as well. So thank you for the Black squares, everyone, but let's actually do things. And so that was kind of full steam's attempt to not just center our own voice, because, we are a company owned by white men, but also share our platform and share some of the beautiful beer we make. That beer is made with all local ingredients, and just say, we see you and we want to celebrate with you. And you're welcome to celebrate with us as well, was kind of the goal there.
Wow. Thank you for that. So welcome to 2020. No doubt we're in the midst of, a serious pandemic on both the economic and, of course, the health crisis. And so one of the things that we often hear about Black businesses, that when, let's say, the rest of America gets a cold, Black businesses get pneumonia and sometimes die, fatal. So Angie Hancock, Experience Harlem, what are you doing to assist businesses in our community?
Hey, so thanks again so much for having me on the show. I really appreciate it, and I appreciate our partnership over the years. Experience Harlem, which launched in 2006, has always been committed to supporting Black-owned businesses in Upper Manhattan. Most recently, in this moment, back in June, after the George Floyd incident, we launched the Guide to Black Harlem, which has been extremely well received. But as you may remember, back in 2010, when the restaurant scene in Harlem started reemerging, we used to do these events called the Experience Harlem Bar and Restaurant Crawl. And then we started partnering with different organizations such as Harlem Park to Park and Frederick Douglass Boulevard Alliance. And these events were just, really a lot of fun. The community would come out. We would get about 1,200 people, 1,500 folks to come out and support the restaurants. And so we're doing an event next week, next Wednesday, August 26th, called Sip, Eat Harlem. And it's an opportunity for folks to come out. Our opportunities to engage with one another has been extremely limited. And so taking advantage of the nice weather, there's some really cool things that have happened with the patios in Harlem. We did a feature on that recently. And having an appropriate socially distanced evening of fun. It's so important for us to go out and support our small businesses here in Upper Manhattan. As you are probably very well aware, and we heard a lot about this during the DNC, that 1 in 6 small businesses in America has closed permanently. Of that, 41% of those businesses are Black owned. And so the highest percentage of any ethnic group. I launched the Experience Harlem Guide, and you can see those in my background, back in 2008. And that was a great year in Harlem for small businesses, but also it was a very difficult year because at the end of that year is when the Great Recession occurred. So since launching that guide in 2008, 57% of those businesses have closed, and the majority of them were Black-owned businesses. And then most recently, I'm pretty sure you were on this call earlier this week as well, Curtis, when the New York City Mayor's Office released the report on Black entrepreneurship, indicating that while Black people make up 22% of the population in New York City, we're only 2% of the businesses are Black owned. And so we were already faced with a very challenging situation. And as a result of this pandemic, unfortunately, not a lot of us are going to survive. And so I would love, I thank you for having me on the show. And I would just want to invite your audience, come out, join us next Wednesday. It's going to be, grab your crew, grab your mask and your hand sanitizer. We want to keep it safe at every stop and, get a ticket to come out and join us for the event.
Absolutely. Ari, you think you can take a flight up to New York or what?
Don't threaten me with a good time.
So, Angie, you've been doing this. I mean, you've been doing it like nobody else. As a matter of fact, I just got to give major props, because when we talk about when we talk about, let's say, Food and Drink Boulevard, talk about FDBA, that is
Right.
you. That's no one else. That is you. Okay. When we
In
talk
the
about,
beginning.
okay,
Yeah.
well, Lenox Avenue Sizzles,
Yes.
that's you.
That was
Okay.
Experience Harlem in partnership with Park to Park. Yes.
Okay, so I guess we have to be what they say the modern day griots, where we verbally make sure that people know the history of this community. Okay, so we got to keep it alive, so to speak. So I want to
appreciate that. And
absolutely.
I would be remiss, our partner introduction, if I do not, give a shout out to our friends at the Greater Chamber that used to do an event called Joints or Jumpin'.
That's right.
I'm sure
I
you
almost forgot
remember
about
that
that
as
one.
well.
Greater Harlem Chamber shout out. Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Indeed.
Yes,
So-
especially given it's Harlem Week.
Mhm.
And I think we also want to shout out that this event is also a benefit for the Boys and Girls Club of Harlem.
Yes, thank you for that.
So we're gonna make sure that Dominique is listening. Okay.
I will.
Okay, give a shout out. So yeah.
So the tickets are only $25, and they include an appetizer and a beverage. And so, where can you get a cocktail and an appetizer for $25 in New York? But $5 of every ticket is going to the Boys and Girls Club of Harlem. As you know, we're entering a very challenging situation with the school year. Kids are going to either be working, remotely or in some sort of hybrid situation, maybe. And, it's a challenge for a lot of our youth in Harlem. They are not equipped with the tools that they need in order to learn in this environment. And so I think it's up to us to make sure that, we look out for our youth, make sure that they have the computers they need, the laptops, the tablets, and access to the internet. And so we want to make sure that, not only are we supporting our businesses in our community, but we're looking out for our next generation as well.
Excellent. So, Night Watchman.
Yes, DJ LeRoy.
Remember, we said that, of course, what had concluded yesterday in closing remarks?
You mean last week?
No, last night. Or actually, ooh. Thank you, Night Watchman. I am so you're right. Yes, last week they wrapped it up there, the convention. So, of course, you can see what I'm wearing right here. Okay, Is this nice or what?
Great shirt.
Thank you. Exactly. So, in homage to my man, the one and only, who also used to hang out religiously at our beach parties, and that is Mr. Kenneth Smaltz. How you doing, buddy?
I'm good. Great. Thank you once again for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. So why should Black folk vote?
Well, besides our ancestors who fought, died, got beat, it's our civic duty. And with all of the voter suppression tactics that are going on right now, I think we're doing ourselves a disservice if we don't. We always have. There's several people that in every election are talking about not voting. They're talking about voting third party, voting for people who have no possibility of actually winning the election. And all of those things do a disservice to the actual voting process. So I just think that's the reason why we should all get out and vote and vote early. Vote early.
Got it. So tell me, of course, the genesis of the organization, Black Folk Must Vote.
Well, actually, I just found out about the history of Black Folk Must Vote. As you know, I started the Black Folk Must Vote in 2004. And I always thought that the phrase resonated with me. And so in 2004, I trademarked it, hoping that sometime down the road, I would put something together and do something. Always wanted to give back to my community, always wanted some kind of a platform in which to do so. And so I started Black Folk Must Vote in 2004. And then I would say around 2006, 2007 is when I actually, put it into play. But it wasn't until November of last year when a button that I have that on it said "Black folk must vote." Very small button, white, pin back, rusty. It came from the civil rights era. Actually, the button came from my aunt. My aunt, who you probably know, Audrey Smaltz.
Audrey Smaltz, absolutely.
She was very active during that time. Not only did she march on Washington with Washington D.C. with Martin Luther King, she was actually, as you know, she appeared in a newspaper and was asked for a comment. That's just who she is. You know?
Yes.
So
she did not hold back. I know.
No, she didn't. And she has the copy of all of them. And she knew a lot of civil rights people. She knew Bobby Rush. She knew Martin Luther King's lawyer. She knew a lot of people from that time period. But she did not know where she got the button from. So
wow.
I wanted to do something with it, so I trademarked it and started an initiative. But it wasn't until last year where I decided I wanted to find out, because I couldn't. I went online, searched it, went into the library, could not find anything about where this slogan came from until I sent the button to the African American Museum in DC. And they got back to me rather quickly.
Wow.
And
okay.
As we speak, they are, because of COVID, it's going to take some time, but they are authenticating the actual button itself to see if that is the actual button from that time period. But what they did come back with was the story. And that's what I always wanted. I was like, where did this come? Did a guy who just make buttons just come up with this slogan? But here is the story. The story comes from 1963, Mississippi. We didn't obviously, as you know, get the not just the right. We got the right to vote in 1870, but we weren't able to vote until the 1965 voting rights.
65, that's right.
Right. So in 1963 in Mississippi, they were trying to figure out a way to obviously vote, to show whites at the time that if given the opportunity, we weren't apathetic. We wanted to vote. So the Congress of Racial Equality, the Congress of Federated Organizations, and SNCC, Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, came out with a way to register voters. And the way they did that was to create a mock election with a president, vice president, Congress, what have you. And they registered 80,000 voters.
Wow.
In 1963 Mississippi. And the slogan that they used to bring in those voters was "Black folk must vote." That is where it comes from.
Wow.
That is
thank you for that, man.
Yeah.
For sure. Yes.
Beautiful.
Yes. And just knowing, of course, when you mentioned Mississippi, and I'm thinking only a year later, then we had the killing of that's right of
Medgar Evers.
Yep, exactly. Right in his home. Right in his home. So, oh God. Oh man. So not only should we vote, of course, in November, because we got to do something to change what's happening now in DC, but also every down ballot race.
Right.
Local elections do matter.
Yes,
and
they do.
we've seen that.
Property taxes, your children's
school
Right.
funding,
Exactly.
potholes, your some of your district attorneys, your public officials, your sheriff,
Board of Education.
Board of Education. Yeah.
and answer the census. If you haven't answered the census determines how many people we actually have to vote for, how many electoral votes we get. It determines allocation of resources for the next 10 years.
Right.
So,
Right.
part and
Very
parcel.
important. Yes.
So of course, Angie, you have been you're not originally, you're originally from the city that offered us one of the first Black mayors of a major metropolitan city.
Right.
But
I'm
you've been
alive November 5.
that's but you are been a Harlemite for some time now. how have you been able to navigate the local political scene here in Harlem? Have you found some good successes, but also some challenges, let's say, correct?
Curtis, I don't even know how to answer that question.
Yeah, that's a landmine.
Okay, okay. You are allowed.
I have my Black Folk Must Vote button on now.
Yeah.
And then right, say no more. You're right. Say no more. You're good. You're good.
I think we can just end with the importance of staying active in local, state, and federal politics.
Yeah.
Okay, absolutely. So one thing, Kenneth, you're going to have to make sure, because I can vouch for her, you're going to make sure that you got to send Ari a button there in North Carolina.
Okay.
And Ari, you need to send Ken some of this delicious Juneteenth beer that we're sipping on right now, as well as Angie.
It was wildly popular, so I have the last keg on right now in my tavern. So maybe next year.
Okay, yeah, or like I said, Ari, share with them at least the menu of some of the tastes that you have, because I have absolutely become a fan of some of the sour beers.
Oh, absolutely. We just released UV75. It's a French 75 inspired kettle sour with sumac and juniper. It is lovely. And actually, in a few minutes, we're going to be putting on People Power. It's a hazy IPA. And that People Power movement is also about voting rights, and fair treatment in America. You'll see a lot of breweries put out their People Power beer in the next couple weeks. There's a couple that are already out on the market. So, the beer community is active, and we're doing what we do best by putting delicious liquid in can. Share the message.
Absolutely. Well, I've seen the synergy right there.
Ari, I also think the model that you came up with about doing these tastings where it can be virtual but actual at the same time is a really, really great model. I actually had a occasion about a week or two ago to do a similar tasting for whiskeys, and we were able to taste the Uncle Nearest whiskey. And
they're doing their thing. They're doing their thing right now.
And we would love to partner with you to host a tasting in Harlem. Next week might be a tight turnaround, but let's connect after the call and let's make happen.
Backyard
and there's
also. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's a great Black-owned. God, with my words are leaving me on a Friday.
Which one?
Harlem.
Beer Garden.
Harlem Hop House.
Harlem Hops.
Harlem Hops.
Yes,
exactly. Yeah. Which, by the way, as a matter of fact, he may be, and you know this, Ari, he may be joining us on a tasting sometime in the future. So,
I believe he's on for the 27th. So Backyard BottleShare is also going to be hosting some special women's tastings. Add a little flair for our sisters. I'm available to do bachelor parties, bachelorette parties, birthday parties, anything like that. If you want to just get some of your friends together like old times, have some beers together over the Zoom, we can do that as well. So my whole thing is, what do I do best? Community and drink beer. So let's put it together and make it fun.
Absolutely.
Well, this is a kind of a great panel because there's a thread of enjoying life and being activists at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I got to salute everybody on here. Angie Hancock has been rolling with the Black Folk Must Vote for some time. I recall the time when you were on location in DC with Ken Smaltz and another of our partners with the T-shirts way back when. Before all the celebrities got on board this thing.
Right. That's right.
Absolutely.
And Black Folk Must Vote will be on board next Wednesday, and we'll have some special giveaways of Black Folk Must Vote gear. So stay tuned.
Okay. Angie, tell us some of the establishments that will be involved are.
All right. We have a lineup of 8 venues: Chocolat, Londell's, Lolo's Seafood Shack, Poncé Bistro, Renaissance Harlem, Ruby's Vintage, and Sexy Taco Pop-Up. I love a taco.
Yes, absolutely.
And Vinateria. So it's a great mix of old and new and different types of food. So, hydrate before the event. Ride your bike this weekend, because you're going to need to have some reserve calories.
Absolutely. So then I take it that good old Kenneth Smaltz, you're going to be joining us in Harlem, buddy?
Oh, definitely. I'm right over the bridge. I'm always here. Born in Harlem.
So hold on. You're claiming that so is not the Night Watchman.
Well, and you're not. I mean, if we have to go there, I mean,
I got my birth certificate, Columbia Presbyterian.
Okay.
Gotcha. Mother and father, Harlem River Homes.
We're gonna start the new birther movement. Where were you?
That's right. Everybody's got to show their birth certificate. Okay. Well, I got mine from the defunct Italian hospital, which was on 110th Street and Central Park South.
Oh, wow.
Or North, rather. Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Nice. Well, one of the things too, though, so Kenneth, one of the things that kind of lit up my eyes when Ari was talking about in terms of, let's say, her company and some of the events that they're doing around, let's say, voting, right? Now you and Ari, you're not necessarily targeting just Black people. You're just talking about getting out to vote, or what?
Absolutely. We're always welcoming people to come in and register, have registration drives. We're doing far fewer on-site events now because we're still under some pretty severe COVID restrictions. But the idea is that everyone's voice should be heard. They wouldn't be trying to stop us from voting with such fervor if it didn't change things, right? At the same time, our government is developed to move slowly. Alexander Hamilton said that ambition must be made to counteract ambition. And that way, a powerful majority who might be wrong-minded can't change things too quickly. And I think what we saw with a lot of the young people that we lost in Obama's second term and the down ballot votes after his election was we've not educated people about how the system works. And so people expect there are people out there who think the president writes laws. And so when things go poorly, they get disenchanted. So it's important to full steam that use your people power, get out there, have civil conversations with each other about difficult topics, and just make sure that people are participating and learning from each other and trying to host like quality educational dialogue. We've never been afraid to speak up about controversial things. You might remember North Carolina making the news for HB2, which is legislation that was very, we think wrong-minded. And we immediately spoke up about that. And, we continue to try to speak up for those who are underrepresented. We try to continue to represent the progressive South and the beautiful South. Before Jim Crow, the South was making very quick, very rapid change, and a very large vocal group made a lot of backward change really quickly for people of color in the South.
Yeah.
And Full Steam is very much about supporting Black Wall Street, supporting young Black entrepreneurs to make sure that we do our part to help Durham especially maintain that or return to that true equality for people of color.
Very good. Very good. One of the things I was thinking, Kenneth, in terms of your organization, any penetration in the school system with young people?
Well, I haven't this year because of COVID. But I've always spoken at schools because our youth are very important as it relates to voting. I've spoken at the Black Student Union at Louisiana State University. Some of the HBCUs. I spoke at Temple University. I spoke at the Art Institute of Philadelphia. And interestingly enough, there was a young lady by the name of Nina Bell. And she was a student at Temple University that I had spoken at. Don't get me lying here. It was somewhere around 2007. I think it was 2007.
Okay.
And in 2012, I got a call from Nina Bell. And she says, "Hey, Ken, I don't know if you remember me, but you spoke at my Black Student Union. Well, I'm a director of an organization in Queens called Safe Space, and they work with disadvantaged students and gay, lesbian, transgender groups and people who have issues at home and what have you." And she says, "Could you come to my school and speak to my students?" And she was someone who I had spoken to. Another gentleman, his name is Reggie. I don't remember his last name. I apologize. But I was on YouTube one day and I saw this thing come. And this was, once again, before Instagram, Facebook wasn't really that big a deal at the time. But I saw this YouTube with this young gentleman. His name was Reggie. Didn't remember him. And I'm looking at it because it said Black folk must vote. So then all of a sudden I see Reggie, and this happened to have taken place in 2008. And he was broadcasting and saying, listen, I just voted, and we have a Black president, and I was just registering or thinking about registering to vote when this gentleman Ken Smaltz from Black Folk Must Vote came to my school, and he talked to our students about how to register and this and this and that, and this was the first time I voted, and there was a Black president, and he was, you got to talk to our youth. Absolutely. You have to talk to disadvantaged communities. And I don't think that our representatives do that enough. They have different situations than we do. We could get up, drive to the polls. There are certain situations they can't get to the polls. Students, they have these voter IDs. Some of the students that they give them these voter IDs, they don't have licenses. The American Indians, they need IDs from them. But a lot of the American Indians, they are voting on living on reservations. There's a lot of ways that they go about trying to stop us from voting, and we have to be very, very careful about how we handle that. But the most important thing is if you want someone to vote, you can't just tell them to vote. You have to some communities, some individuals, some people, you have to explain to them why their vote is important.
Got it. Absolutely.
So, Kenny, how do you feel? Obviously, this election, the stakes are higher than they've ever been since you started this. Since we've been alive, there's never been higher stakes for an election. So, coming out of the convention, just your thoughts and feelings on where we're going, what our momentum's like, and what we need to be doing to bring this thing home.
Well, I'll say this for the first time on your show. My initiative is nonpartisan.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yes.
Wink, wink.
Yes. but it's not nonsensical.
Thank you. And actually, the initiative is nonpartisan. And if you look at my website, it's nonpartisan. It just talks about the importance of voting. That's it.
Absolutely.
Now, Ken Smaltz is a registered Democrat. Okay?
Gotcha.
And as it relates to this, the Democratic election last week, the convention, I thought that Biden did a very, very good job. It was probably one of the most important speeches that he's made in his life.
He wasn't Sleepy Joe.
And they were concerned about his flubs, and that's all they are. They joke about the flub where he says to whispers in Barack's ear, and he says, "This is a big effing deal." That's not a flub to me, and I don't think to a lot of Americans that heard that.
Well, compared to 45,
that's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah, those are the things that they're concerned about. He was pitch perfect. I think he did a good job. Another thing is that the progressive side, the liberal side, unfortunately, we have the creatives, and what they did in producing that production last week was amazing. And I do not think that the other side is going to match that. They just
wait a second.
Just not going to.
They have Scott Bow.
I forgot about that.
And the pillow guy.
Right. No, I think they did a really good job. That was more than just a convention. And I think the fact that we're now having to work virtually or whatever. That was done really well. I thought it was really well. They really reached inside to the background of Joe Biden, where he comes from, his wife, who's been a teacher her whole life. My mother was a teacher. Interestingly enough, I got into his story about stuttering. I stuttered when I was young. All right, not too many people know that. I stuttered when I was young as well. And people made fun of it, you know, but you overcome those things. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
And I think a person who you want to vote for is compassionate to those issues and individuals. They look beyond that. And I think Joe Biden is the guy, you know, for the time moment.
Excellent. So, Ange, you were about to say something?
No, I was just agreeing with everything that was said. I think this is probably the first time I've watched the majority of a convention, and I thought it was extremely well done. I loved how they just pulled in so many different people, and because we're in this virtual space, I think it presented some opportunities that, you know, we may not have otherwise had. And, you know, certainly I can appreciate the integration of and awareness of the issues that are challenging for us. You know, we talked a lot about Black businesses, but we haven't talked about the fact that we are, I believe it's 3 times more likely to have had COVID and twice as likely to die from COVID. And you know, that's important. And so I think I love that they integrated us. And yes, you know, we are going to rally the troops to get out and vote. But, you know, I also want to challenge us to set our own agenda and hold people accountable.
So as you do know, one of your favorite interns happens to be my son. And Kenneth, I heard what you said in terms of the progressive wing, but he was quite disappointed with the candidates that we have to choose from.
Sure.
Okay. So what do you see? And you, Ari, as one of the younger folk of this particular set, what do you see in terms of this progressive wing, or as 45 would say, the squad, in terms of, and Bernie having their particular agenda go forward?
For me, as a very young person, compared to a lot of the people we see representing us in the political stage, you know, they're older, they're career politicians. For me, I want to live in a world where my neighbor doesn't go bankrupt if they have cancer. I want to live in a world where kids have equal opportunities. I want to live in a world where if you get up and you go to work for 40 hours a week, you can earn a dignified living.
Yep.
I don't think that the Democratic Party has done a good job of speaking to that. But as I did more research into Joe's actual platform, I found it to be far more progressive than I expected. Not as well detailed as Elizabeth Warren's platform, I thought, and nowhere near as well detailed as I believe even Hillary's was. Because I mean, both those women are fantastic executors. They get things done. They're great planners. But I do believe Joe can pull people together and get it done. And I do think that if we take the lessons that COVID has to teach us about unity, and that we're all in this together, and that at any given moment we could lose everything that's important to us, we'll think about how much more important it is to take care of ourselves. I would have liked to have seen more time from the ultra progressive side of the Democratic Party. At the same time, if you look at the world stage of politics, our left is centrist. Bernie's not talking crazy anywhere but in America. What he's talking about is normal in a lot of Europe, right?
Yeah.
And so I would like to see the party go a little bit more progressive, but I do know anything but the Democratic Party right now is actually a regression versus progress. So, you know, it's like public transport. You don't say, oh, that bus isn't going exactly to the door I want. You get on the one that's going closest and walk the rest of the way.
Right. Yeah, say that again. Say that again. Some people don't get that.
You know, go get what you want, live it, live your values, help your fellow man, make up for the gaps in the government yourself with your own actions. You know, we can't beg the government to do everything for us, but we can get us a government that will get us close enough that we can do the rest.
Absolutely.
The Constitution didn't have the 1963 Civil Rights Act on it. You know, it didn't
That's
have
right.
the 1965 Voting Rights Act
Correct.
on it. You know, they were amendments to the Constitution, taking something that wasn't quite perfect and making it perfect.
That's right.
That's what you
right.
have to do. If you do not like the Democratic Party, listen, they're not doing things the way their platform, the things that they fight for, I believe in, but I don't think the way they put them into place, I definitely don't agree with them. I'm more at just like Ari. I'm a little bit left of center. I like Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. I like the squad. I wasn't a Bernie fan, but I was a fan of what he was talking about.
Gotcha. And now, would you say or whatnot? And Ari, you said it in terms of the platform that the Dems had proposed is definitely a little bit more progressive, in line with the progressives. Would you say that this is a result of Bernie really having a close race with Joe?
Oh, absolutely. And one thing I will say about Senator Harris, you know, people talk about, you know, her role as a prosecutor or whatever. But one thing we really need to think about with her is she has proven that she listens to her voters. She's changed her platform. She's changed her ideas based on what her constituents have said is important to her. So I think that's a really strong sign. And again, I definitely think the Democrats have realized they have to come a long way from the Clinton era Democrats, which were very, very moderate, very centrist, something new, because the world we live in has changed so dramatically.
Yes.
That sense of possibility is not there for younger people. You know, people are coming out of college now with like hundreds of thousands of dollars of debt, and it's not because they're doing anything wrong. It's because wages are stagnant. The cost of living and the cost of education is skyrocketing. So what's your plan now? Because what you were doing, what you did 20 years ago isn't working anymore.
That's right. Right.
So you found us a politically astute brewmaster.
I agree with everything she's saying.
So do I. And
a lot of good conversations had over a glass of beer.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So I think we want to take a moment to just give some just props to the vice presidential selection, the historic selection of Kamala Harris, and there was obviously a lot of dialogue around that. I think we will look back and see that choice as a defining moment for this particular campaign, because I felt like the campaign was losing momentum, and in one fell swoop, it gained the momentum again. For me, I thought it was absolutely the right choice, and when I say that I was not a fan of Kamala Harris in the primaries.
I wasn't feeling it either. Okay.
Right, and like some of our other guests, I find myself to the left of center as well. I'm very much a supporter of the progressive wing of the party, but I think that they need to be given their room to do what they do. That was my one criticism of the convention, is that I felt like they got muted a little bit.
They did.
And I think that it's important for Democrats to realize where momentum comes from. And the momentum in the last few years has always come from the progressive end, and it always seems to be stifled. And we saw what the results of that were in 2016. So it's important that we don't make that mistake again. At the same point in time, recognizing the power of having somebody who is more centrist, who can bring people across the line, because we need to put the fire out right now. There is a trash can fire going on at 1600 Black Lives Matter Plaza, and that needs to be put out, and that can only be put out with a coalition of people who might have voted for him in 2016, but are horrified at what they actually got versus what they were expecting to get.
Yes, exactly.
But I will add by saying, you know, if Hillary, instead of picking Kane as her running mate, if she had picked a Latinx running mate,
Julian Castro. I
don't think we would have been here today. But they're constantly forgetting who their base is. And thank God he listened. Well, I think it happened when Jim Clyburn.
That's right.
You know, did it, and it was Black women that did that. And I think what's his
Doug
campaign
Jones
manager,
in Alabama, remember?
What's his campaign manager?
Who?
Joe Biden's campaign manager, John Pierre.
Okay.
Karine Jean Pierre.
Yeah, Karine Jean Pierre. Yep.
And another, I think they said, listen, you got to pick a black woman. You can't, because what they were thinking about doing, having all of those black women to pick from, they were thinking about going and picking
Amy Klobuchar.
Amy Klobuchar or this other young woman who was
Whitmer in Michigan.
The other one who was also, I think she was an American Indian.
Elizabeth Warren?
Warren?
No, she's, oh God.
Well, the bottom line,
I can't remember who she was, but they were thinking about saying, well, we're instead of picking the 3 qualified black women that are here, we're going to pick another minority and make it sound like, okay, we went to, they did the right thing. They did the right thing. And I think now they have a much stronger ticket.
Yes, they do.
Absolutely.
Well, here's the question. Now, I know we can't broadcast the future per se or predict it.
We actually can, but we won't know if it's accurate or not until the future gets here. That's how time travel works.
Now, in any other time, and maybe it's because we're black people, right? We've seen what 45 has done. So we really think that if you have a moral center, this thing should not even be close, correct?
By the way, I'm not black, I'm West Indian, according to some.
I've heard that before.
Wow.
I'm not black. I'm not black. I'm not black. I'm Dominican.
Okay. Let me go around. Angie, prediction.
Prediction?
Yes.
Biden Harris.
Okay. Ari.
I'm predicting Biden Harris, but I think it's going to be a lot closer than we'd like to think.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Kenneth?
All right. I predict Biden Harris, but I predict 2 things. I think it's going to be an ish show up until we get there. They're going to pull everything possibly out. Everything. So we need to be on careful about that. And also, I think we need to remember the 2000 election with the hanging chads.
Oh, God, not that.
The popular vote, we can win the popular vote by 5 million. Hillary won by 3 million. But
yes,
the popular vote can be won by 5 million votes, and they can still win the Electoral College. So we need to be careful about certain states. It could come down to 1 or 2 states where we don't vote. Like in Florida, I think 319,000 people, blacks, did not vote in Florida, and he won by 113,000 votes. So we need to be really careful about certain places, because what will happen in a particular state, if they have a Republican court, lower courts, and district attorneys and what have you, they could count the votes just like they did in Florida and take that whole election. So be very careful about that particular point.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Night Watchman.
Too close to call. I want Biden Harris to be the winner, obviously. But my concerns are the same as Ken's and the other concerns that have been expressed. We've already saw the voter nullification straight from the U.S. Post Office, and then the fake retraction where they said, all right, we're not going to do any more of this. They've already removed the boxes. They've taken out sorting machines. And so they have let us know in no uncertain term that every trick that they can pull in terms of voter nullification, they will.
Yeah.
And so that's why I will not make a prediction of Biden Harris, because I feel we need to stay scared. We need to stay engaged and stay involved. And that's one of the reasons why that choice was so important, because we're not winning without the efforts of Black women, period.
True.
The organizers and the executors, as you mentioned, Ari, about women who execute, that has always been the engine that moves political parties, whether there's some guy at the top taking all the credit. The fact is that you need an engaged group of people who are going to push and press this issue in every state. And boy, the wind that would have been taken out of the sails of the most effective practitioners if they had not chosen a black woman. There are a lot of black women who would be like, "Why am I working so hard?" And I even feel
You're right.
like
You're right.
myself. I
It's
know,
a difference. It's a difference of showing up and showing out.
right?
And I got that quote from
You
someone.
know,
Yes.
You're
it's
going
like,
to show out.
right.
Mhm.
I'm going to vote for Biden Harris regardless. But am I going to put money in the campaign? Am I going to make the extra phone call? Am I going to go pick somebody up? If I don't feel fully engaged by the party, which has been the issue between the progressive side not being heard, that, you know, we saw in 2016 a lot of the Bernie Sanders people and, you know, just, well, we're just not going to vote. And that's obviously not acceptable. But
Right.
you can't discount human nature. If you discount somebody and basically show them through your deeds that they don't matter, you can't go back to them and say, well, why didn't you show up for me? It's just not
Right.
going to work.
Absolutely.
Mhm. And what about you, DJ LeRoy? You have not given us your prediction.
Well, I certainly do hope and pray it's Joe and Kamala. But I I just remember this Dave Chappelle skit. He said that he knew because I know the whites. I know the whites. So it's a type of thing. Who knows? At the 11th hour, some crazy ass stuff might happen. I mean, literally, we do know in the last election, apparently, white women were not feeling Hillary, and they went right against her, despite the fact that the misogynistic and sexist stuff that this dude put out. They went with him. So, what were you going to say, Ari?
Yeah, our white sisters did not get information.
Well,
not at all.
The other mistake I think that the Democratic Party is making is not focusing on the issues of common ground. There's so much made about the racial issue, and they're obviously important, but I don't think you're necessarily going to move people with those issues. But what about the issues of clean water and clean air? What about the issues of just the actual criminal activity that's been going on in the White House? Those are things, bounties, Russian bounties on American troops.
Yes.
There's a whole laundry list of things that have nothing to do with Black Lives Matter that you can craft a message to those moderate or in the middle white people who are appalled at these things, but you have to keep those items front and center, because there's more than enough in that list to fire the current resident of 1600 Black lives.
And can I also ask why is it that whatever reason the polling shows that Republicans have a better handle over the economy? I for the life of me don't get that.
I know.
When the first Republican administration bankrupted us and we had to bring Barack Obama in order to get us out of that. I'm sorry.
Correct. That's right.
That Republican administration that Barack had to come in, we had a surplus with Bill Clinton.
Well, Bill Clinton.
And then a Republican came in, took us to war that we didn't have to go, bankrupted us, and then a Democratic administration comes in, and 8 years later, we are now going bankrupt again on a Republican administration. So how is it that they always win when it comes to polling, when it comes to handling the economy? I just don't get that.
I don't understand it.
They don't see it to hurt.
If I could offer marketing, I think Republicans
very good. Yes,
position themselves a certain way.
Yes,
Democrats have positioned themselves another way. But I think strategically the Democrats understand that they need Black people to win this election, and so I think there's some very conscious choices around how they leverage the convention to talk about those issues, but then they're leveraging other platforms to talk about some of those other issues. And so there was a very across a lot of the morning news this morning of a lot of discussion around how many people have been prosecuted that were near 45.
That's
and so
right.
We're going to see that. I see more of those conversations playing out. The settlement that just occurred for Flint, Michigan. We're going to
Flint,
hear
Michigan. That was great. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
and so I think,
Yeah.
I think let's, sit back and just, really pay attention to like everything that is going on and pay attention from multiple sources.
So, folks, we actually have to start wrapping up. So I want to give everybody a chance to just give some contact information. I'm going to start with you, Ari. Thank you for joining us from North Carolina. Thank you for this delicious brew. Tell us a little bit about Backyard Bottles and how people can follow you and stay in touch.
All righty. So right now, the best way to know what Backyard BottleShare is doing is just checking out the Instagram. Really simple, Backyard BottleShare. Just a couple pictures, and I'll be keeping that calendar up to date there. As soon as the Patreon and website launch, it'll update there as quickly as possible. And then I can be emailed just at info@backyardbottleshare.com. And I tend to pop up in weird places. So
okay, that's good to know. And we'll just throw that on the screen. Angie Hancock, tell us where people can find out about Sip Eat Harlem and about everything going on with Experience Harlem.
Sure. So, definitely visit us at experienceharlem.com, sign up for our newsletter, as well as follow us on your favorite social media channel, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitter, and follow the hashtag Sip Eat Harlem to find out how you can win tickets for Wednesday's event.
Excellent.
And finally, Mr. Ken Smaltz, tell us how.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Yeah, just tell us how we can follow Black Folk Must Vote.
Well, the website is blackfolkmustvote.org. Instagram, Black Folk Must Vote, and we have some interesting things coming up. Right before I got on this call, there was if you look at the term hashtag Black Folk Must Vote, you'll start seeing a lot of celebrities that are wearing the shirts and then tagging their friends and asking them if they're registered to vote, and if not, to go out and vote. But I just had a conversation maybe 2 weeks ago with a radio station in Minnesota. I'll leave it there because I can't give you the specifics, but I was concerned as to what they were asking me, was it going to come to fruition? And it has to do with a Black rapper who has a son and is in business. And I'm going to be teaming up with him and I think 10 or 15 basketball teams, mixed gender, that are owned by celebrities. We're teaming up with them. I'm not going to give you all the specifics, but I was unsure as to whether that's going to come to fruition. I just got the text. It's going to happen. And we're doing a lot. We're doing a lot.
Excellent.
You give us some clues. I'm going to make a couple of guesses, but I won't.
You should have guessed it because those are pretty good.
Right. Oh, my drink is a little warm. I think it needs some ice cubes.
No.
Okay. Close, but no cigar, NightWatchman.
No, hey, if you can hook that up, I would like to.
All right. Well, we eliminated one. Well, all of you, thank you for joining us on Soul Lounge Prime.
Thank you so much. Yes.
As always, we are live 7 o'clock on WHCR 90.3 FM, also live streaming on WHCR.org. And we are live on YouTube, premiering at 8 p.m. on Monday nights on our YouTube channel, Soul Lounge Primetime. Thanks for joining us. Like, subscribe to everybody who you heard, and come back next week.
Yes. Thank you, guys.